So there's this documentary I keep seeing on my YouTube feed because my YouTube work account is not tied to my Miami Heat account. But because I watch a lot of basketball stuff, I kept seeing this video pop up and I'm like, what the hell is this video about? And it says Jimmy Butler just exposed the NBA. So I want to see what Jimmy Butler did because I was looking at Golden State and I was like, their schedule ain't all that. Like, I mean, they were 14-1, but, you know, they beat a Knicks team without Towns. But then also the Knicks are a good team, but they don't really beat good teams. So with that said, let's get into this video. And by the way, I will be watching this video at probably 1.5 speed because ain't nobody got time to watch it at normal speed because it's seeming like a documentary type video. So let's see.
Over the last decade of NBA basketball, it's that the league is now completely driven by analytics.
A lot of people don't like that.
Analytics come in now, I don't know if they did this before, and they say we have to play this way.
What's your three-point percentage? What's your wingspan? How many points per game do you average? Every decision, roster moves, play style, even contracts, is dictated by analytics, almost as if teams are playing a real-life video game.
Very hard.
This shot is worth 1.5 more than this shot.
No one has shaped this data revolution more than Daryl Morey. His philosophy, now known as Morey Ball, has completely revolutionized the modern NBA by emphasizing three-pointers and layups while diminishing the importance of mid-range shots. The idea is simple. Crack the numbers, and you crack the game. Many would argue, however, that this numbers-first approach makes the game too predictable, draining the excitement.
Facts.
But for teams chasing wins, the analytics rule. If the data says it works, nothing else matters.
League is all data
And then
right now.
there's Jimmy Butler, who refuses to play by the numbers.
It's always better with a ball handler. And that pass from Draymond to Butler!
At 35 years old, the Warrior star is a glitch in the matrix of modern basketball. He's a below-average three-point shooter, he doesn't have elite length, and if you look at his stats alone, you'd think he was just another role player. By today's metrics, he shouldn't be this good, but somehow, he keeps breaking the algorithm. Every team he touches turns into a contender. And in 2025, he's rewriting the script again, turning the Warriors from a league-wide afterthought into a legitimate threat.
You know, there's definitely a difference when Jimmy Butler wants to play versus when Jimmy Butler doesn't want to play, like the Miami situation. He don't want to play for the Heat no more, so then he gives you these nonchalant stats. But the stats ain't really, it doesn't really say a lot about Jimmy Butler because they won a game with Jimmy Butler having like 8 points and Stephen Curry having 50 points. So he's definitely a lot more than his stats.
They won 10 straight games that Jimmy Butler's played in, so pretty much every locker room with Jimmy Butler I've been in postgame is a winning locker room, which is also...
Yes, when he wants to win.
How is Butler doing this? Why don't his numbers reflect his impact? And the biggest question of all, is Jimmy Buckets exposing the limits of NBA analytics? Before the 2025 trade deadline, the Warriors were in serious trouble. They were dropping game after game, Steph Curry was clearly frustrated, and the team looked like it was slowly falling apart.
The Golden State Warriors 2024-25 NBA season might be over.
That's how the Heat look right now, but not slowly.
Warriors fans online were desperately searching for answers, but nothing seemed to make sense. Some believed the Warriors needed another top 20 player next to Steph. Others thought they needed a true point guard and floor general. And then there were those who felt it was time to blow it all up and rebuild.
You need to rebuild, and you need to blow it up, and you need to be drastic, whatever it is that you do, because that's the only way that you can potentially hit on something that's going to point you in the right direction.
In the end, the Warriors landed...
Funny story. That's exactly how I feel about the Miami Heat team. And a lot of Heat fans feel that same way too, because it's like your top guys, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, and Bam. A lot of people don't really believe in Bam, and they don't believe in Tyler Hero. You know, Tyler Hero probably will end up being a really good third option. And a lot of people just don't believe in Bam. But the Miami Heat definitely don't have a number one. I mean, Andrew Wiggins being your number one is probably not ideal.
Jimmy Butler, a player who, through 25 games with the Heat this season, was averaging just 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Numbers that wouldn't even get you into the All-Star game in today's NBA.
Facts.
And if that wasn't bad enough,
But he was just chilling though.
according to 2K, Jimmy wasn't just outside the top 20. He wasn't even top 40. Jimmy Butler was ranked
he
as just the
definitely deserved to be
48th
above
best
some
player
of these
in the
players.
league. On paper, this team should have collapsed. But instead, the exact opposite happened.
By 21. Wow. That was something else. With 4 titles, and now 500.
By all
I don't like
accounts,
some of
this
these
made
teams they
no
play.
sense. If the numbers were
Some
the
of these
ultimate
teams,
truth,
they're just not
how did
that
the Warriors
good.
go from rock bottom to dominance overnight? All by adding a player the stats were against.
Bro, I'm jumping out the window right now, dog. They are a Western Conference Finals max team. Like, you know,
Really?
Jimmy Butler teams where it's like,
Even after joining Golden State, Jimmy's effective field goal percentage dropped to 47.3%. For context, Russell Westbrook gets ripped apart for his inefficiency, and yet Jimmy was now in the same category. But the Warriors were still winning because of him. He's defying everything the modern NBA is built on. The idea that numbers dictate success.
There's a difference
So
when Jimmy
that
wants
begs the
to play and
question,
when Jimmy doesn't
if the
want to
numbers
play.
are lying, what's the truth?
Guess he's got his joy back.
There are things in basketball that numbers will never capture. If I just told you, it might not sink in. So instead, let me show you with stories. In the 2020 NBA Finals, the Miami Heat were already huge underdogs against the Lakers. And then, in Game 3, it got even worse. They lost Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic, their second.
So I'm not going to lie. If Goran and Bam stayed healthy, I don't know if we win the series, but we definitely would have made it a lot more competitive. One thing you got to keep in mind is that, we had a young Duncan Robinson and a young Tyler Hero. They were shooting lights out during the bubble, so it would have been interesting if they stayed healthy.
And third best players. At that point, this wasn't just an uphill battle. It was like climbing Everest with no oxygen.
They got
But
hurt,
Jimmy
so it
Butler?
didn't matter anyways.
He didn't care. He went out and dropped a 40-point triple-double without hitting a single three. And in the fourth quarter, after scoring a tough bucket on LeBron James, the guy who had been to almost every finals for a decade, Jimmy looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're in trouble." Just think about that. Shorthanded, outmatched, on the biggest stage, and trash-talking one of the greatest of all time? What makes this even crazier is that Jimmy fully believed it.
Jimmy, first I just wanted to clarify. It looked like you said you're in trouble. Is that what you said?
That is what I said.
Okay.
In the 2023 NBA playoffs, the 8th-seeded Miami Heat went up against the 1st-seeded Milwaukee Bucks, the best regular season team in the league. And Jimmy Butler? He didn't back down for a second. He put up insane performances, completely tore them apart, and led Miami to one of the biggest upsets in NBA history, becoming just the 6th number 8 seed ever to take.
Now, a lot of people are saying that if Giannis didn't get hurt in that series, then it would not be a 4-2 win versus the Bucks, which you never know. I mean, Giannis obviously is a major factor, but I remember he fell and hit his lower back or something like that. But
Take down a number 1 seed. And to make it even better, he looked him straight in the eye and said, "I own you." He didn't just beat the best team in the league. He trash-talked them. He embarrassed them. And made sure they knew it. Jimmy Butler isn't in the NBA to make friends. He doesn't beg for help. He doesn't actively team up with other superstars. And the reason he's been criticized, the reason he's bounced around the league, it's because not every team is built for his mentality.
He brings it every single possession. And see, when I think of guys with the Mamba mentality, I need to look at guys and watch guys that play every possession,
If he
not
still
every
likes
minute,
the
but
team.
every second. And Jimmy falls under that category.
This is the dog factor. You won't find it on a box score. You won't see it in any advanced analytics. And honestly, I don't think
he's
numbers
still
can even
throwing a middle
quantify
finger.
it. But whatever it is, Jimmy has it in spades. And yet, NBA teams look at his 17-5-5 stat line and think, nothing special. And that's why time and time again,
Not gonna lie, it's not just the NBA teams. If I talk to casual basketball fans about Jimmy Butler, they'd be like, "Oh, well, Jimmy Butler is not that great." And I'm just like, I mean, I'm not gonna act like he's a superstar, but
they let him walk. And look, I'll be real, I was guilty of this too. When Jimmy first joined the Warriors, I wasn't sure what to expect. But when the team was struggling, when the season looked like it was slipping away, Jimmy stood firm, like King Leonidas, with the belief of a Warrior facing 300 against a million.
Let's get it. Championship coming soon.
I don't know about
Most
championship,
superstars,
Jimmy. But
maybe even all of them, wouldn't have the nerve to say that. But Jimmy, the dog in him can. Like the saying goes, life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And that right there, that's the dog factor. That's the thing numbers will never measure.
he's got that dog in him.
Here's a clip of Allen Iverson, an NBA superstar from over 2 decades ago, responding to a reporter asking if going to practice would make his teammates better. There was one more level to his game, one in the plus-minus department. But the impact? It's real. For a first-hand example, just look at Jimmy Butler's time with Miami Heat. For the first 2 seasons, Bam Adebayo was just a decent role player, putting up mediocre numbers at best. Then in 2020, when Jimmy arrived, Bam suddenly became a double-double machine, an all-star and one of the best defensive players in the NBA.
He raised the level of play around people. Yes, sir. He make you play harder. He just make you care a little bit more.
I agree with that.
Then, after Jimmy moved to Golden State, look at what happened to Steph Curry. Before Jimmy arrived, whispers of Steph slowing down were growing louder. But now, he's setting defenses on fire again.
Steph from midcourt. Oh, come on!
Damn.
Did he ghost him on that too?
I mean, I'm not
The fact
surprised
is,
Steph
Jimmy
Curry's
Butler
doing that,
elevates his
but damn.
teammates. There's no stat for this, no flashy metric, nothing the NBA can measure. But the proof is in his track record. And if that's not the essence of an MVP, then what is?
Hold on. Let me go
It's not
back
the essence
to
of
those
an MVP.
numbers. So let's see. Miami before the Jimmy Butler trade, after the trade, 4-12. Let's see. The Warriors, yeah, they lost to Denver. I heard without. I don't know if Jokic played, but I know Denver was missing some players and they ended up winning. Denver is going to beat them in the playoffs. Like, I'm not worried about the Golden State Warriors winning their championship with Jimmy Butler. Look, I've already had one of my sports team lose one of their best players and then go on to win a Super Bowl. So, you know, if Jimmy wins a championship, I really wouldn't give a shit. It would be nice if they missed the playoffs so we can get that pick, but obviously that's not going to happen. My only thing with the Warriors, like, I don't hate the Warriors or hate on the Warriors, but these guys are older. You know, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, they're what, 35, 36? So with that said, man, you know, if you are a Golden State fan, you're hoping that they hold up because they're up there in age. Same with Draymond Green. But yeah, 14-1 versus 4-12. Now, it wouldn't matter if Jimmy was still on the team because Jimmy didn't want to play for Miami. So they probably still wouldn't win any games. Miami's losing a whole bunch of third, fourth quarter games. They'll go up by 20 in the first quarter and lose by like 10 in the fourth quarter. So Eric Spoelstra's offense has been known to be bad for maybe a decade plus. Like, most Heat fans know that Eric Spoelstra in that third quarter, fourth quarter, it's like the players have to like figure it out because I don't know, man, something's going on with that scheme.
Then what is? If there's one thing to learn from Jimmy Butler, it's this. Never let numbers define who you are. Think about it. What was your GPA in school? How many followers do you have? What's your net worth? We live in a world where numbers seem to decide everything. Your intelligence, your status, your worth. But here's the thing. Numbers don't measure heart. They don't measure resilience. They don't measure the fire inside you. If they did, Jimmy Butler wouldn't be where he is right now. Because by the numbers, he was never supposed to be this guy. An unranked recruit out of high school, the last pick in the first round of the NBA draft, traded, doubted, overlooked, again.
All right, so I can see why this documentary has so many views. Jimmy Butler's a good player. Again, I don't look at him like he's a superstar, but a lot of people definitely disrespect Jimmy Butler, meaning like they don't really look at Jimmy Butler like, oh, he's a player that they have to worry about. But yeah, don't sleep on Jimmy Butler. I don't expect them to beat OKC or the Nuggets, but you never know. He's been counted, you know, people have been against Jimmy Butler before, you know, like they look at the team that he has and they say, oh yeah, you know, this is going to be a sweep, like, you know, like the Bucks series. Also in the West, I do feel like there are a couple teams that can definitely beat the Warriors in a 7-game series, but you also got to consider that you never know who's going to stay healthy. You know, it might be the other team that's missing a key player, and all that stuff counts. But everybody healthy, I don't see them beating Lakers. I don't see them beating OKC, and I definitely don't see them beating Denver. Maybe I need to go look at the top teams in the West because they could definitely beat Houston. Last I checked, Houston was up there. I'm not too sure about Memphis. Memphis just smoked Miami a while ago. I might take Memphis over them too, but I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think, man. Do some of y'all Heat fans miss Jimmy Butler? Because I don't miss Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler at the end of the day didn't want to be here. So what are you missing if you miss Jimmy Butler? You missed the Jimmy Butler that wanted to play in the postseason? Because even when he was okay with playing for this team, you know, the regular season Jimmy was, you had some key games, but there was nothing like playoff Jimmy. And that's what people are looking forward to on Golden State. They're hoping that he turns up in the playoff, but he's a year older, so, you know, you just never know. But I don't know. Tell me what y'all thinking about below. Did y'all watch the documentary before this video? Because it had a lot of views.